Welcome to part 5 in the Traxxas to the Max video series here by Riskey Concepts RC. Today's video, installing the trans. We built earlier, episode 2 or 3, 2-speed trans, steel input shaft from the brushless, modified to run the second gear, steel idler gears from the brushless, spur gear assembly, and slipper assembly from the brushless. Then next we'll have a 4947 aluminum blue center skid plate. This is a factory 4907 E Maxx rear center drive shaft, and this is a modified drive shaft to go in the front. That was that, and then it was shortened and the end changed and the boot removed. So these are the spacers, because the transmission actually hangs a little bit lower in the chassis, because this is not as thick as the 3906 chassis. So once we put the skid plate or the chassis braces in order to put the skid plate on, we're going to have to space it out. Otherwise, if you don't put anything on, you run the risk of this catching stuff as you bash. Now the other modification here is these had to be shaved. So originally they had little bumps on here, and those have to be shaved to fit the transmission. So we'll go ahead and start with the assembly. First thing to do is to put in the drive shafts. So take out the retaining screws. Now, ideally, when you put these in, notice they don't have boots on the center drive shafts. But when you put these in, now this is for the rear, this is the front, this is the rear, you want to put them in so that typically you're driving forward, so the dirt is coming from the front, so that the dirt is not going to clog into these. So on the back it should look like that, and on the front it should look like that. So connect these to our brushless diff. Now I thought about doing the spooled diffs, but I opted not to because it makes it kind of difficult to steer when your tires can't rotate at uneven rates. So, and that's what the lock diff will do, or spooled diff. Both tires have to spin at the same rate, so when you turn, the inside tire is going to turn less to travel around the corner, so it will hop or make it hard to turn. So rather than put those in and decrease some of the drivability, I went ahead and just left the diff stock. Okay. See, I gotta go to the toolbox and get one of these out. Failed to leave it inside the end. Now, for those that are curious, the reason I used such a girthy one in the front is, one, the extra length. Now I could go to the brushless and use the front one from the brushless and shorten it, I suppose, but I like the big girthy one in the front because when you're driving these things, typically the front wheels like to come off the ground, and if the front wheels are off the ground, those wheels are spinning, and then when it comes back down on the ground, something has to give, and I don't want to have to come back in here and replace this. I'd rather the ones out at the wheels twist. And I do like these over the other type just because of the telescoping aspect. When you've got the dog bone style, if they come out of the cups, yeah, you can trash a lot of stuff really fast. So with these, you don't have to worry about them coming out of the cups. If you have overextended suspension arms, you won't damage them. So it's a little bit easier for those that like to have their truck as a high riding monster truck rather than flat suspension arms, even though ideally your suspension arms should be pretty close to flat. Next we'll put in the trans. And then, to connect this up for now, I have to go get another retaining screw. That's what you're looking at. And then next will be the chassis braces and the skid plate. I'm going to pull the skid plate out before I pause it so I can go get the other screws. Or the other screw. Comes with screws, but not using them because we're going with stainless. Nice, sexy looking skid plate. Matches everything else. Okay. Again, the number on that was 4947X. In fact, why don't I just steal it out of here to save time and effort. Take it out of the drive shaft I was just showing. Okay, next is to mount the trans. So you got your skid plates, or your chassis braces. Now remember, oh, that does, I don't like that. It will bolt up, but it would not bolt up normally. You could not put this on here on a normal basis. Given that we're using the spacers, it won't matter. But they're supposed to go with these shaved sides in, or the parts that I shaved in. So that'll go like that. Let me pause it here. I'll bolt the trans in, and then I'll come back to put that on. Okay, now I'm back. Trans is fully bolted in. Next would be to put on the skid plate. As I was saying earlier, if I wanted to, I could not put that flat, but obviously these arms would not allow, or these braces would not allow me to if I wanted to, because the pattern is different. So I will go ahead and put these on first. These are aluminum spacers. So that when I set this down, everything is as it should be. So I'll go ahead and mount that. I'll See, we got a front skid plate. And we got a rear skid plate. And that'll be that. And then the next video, since all I have to do is put those screws on, no reason to, we'll be putting on some more parts. Some drive shafts, pivot balls. These are the hard anodized aluminum. Black turnbuckles, toe links, whatever you like to call them. Arms and our knuckles, and these are the Revo knuckles. I got these off eBay from a seller that tears down brand new trucks. So these are brand new. And then the reason I got the Revo and not the E Maxx brushless is the Revo uses a 1 millimeter larger bearing. So larger bearing, and it's just on the OD, not on the ID, just the OD. Larger bearing means you can use larger balls, which means you can have better performance basically from the bearing. The smaller the balls are, the harder it is to be a load bearing surface. So the more you can jam in there with more space, you can create a much better load bearing bearing. So yeah, so that's why I go with the Revo and not the E Maxx brushless ones. These are an optional for the E Maxx brushless. So that'll be the next episode. But that's where we stand. Actually, we're upside down, but yeah, you get the idea. This video was installing the underside. So yeah, I'm still looking for any comments or any suggestions for a brushless setup for this and for wheels for this. I'm kind of leaning towards the Summit wheels with the blue beadlock ring, but we'll see. I haven't decided, and I haven't decided on a ESC motor setup. But again, I want it all to be Traxxas, so that kind of limits what I can do, but not so bad. So yeah, so if you got any other comments or any questions, feel free to leave them below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.